We are getting our second episode of the day on as we go to the hotline, to the phones, really actually to the Twitter, to find out what your questions you have about Michigan football in this momentous week. I don't know. I don't really have a word there. Regardless, Michigan Mailbag is back. Let's talk your questions on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, back and doing it part 2, Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, except for yesterday, which is why we're doing the mailbag now. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group redesign the last couple days. Check it out, wolverineswire.usatoday.com. Let's get right to it, starting with a very small contingent of the leaders and best. Starting with Josh Barrett-Jadicke. Seeing a lot of positive stuff this week about Chip, as in Chip Lindsey, as a relationship builder and recruiter. Have you gotten to meet with him? And if so, what's your early impressions? Not yet. I'm assuming that'll happen in the spring. If it goes like last year, sometime in March, so in about a month and a half-ish, we'll get to meet him. But so I don't really know anything yet. But it does seem, he's making the rounds and all that stuff in terms of recruiting. Certainly he's been around the game in terms of high school and college and all that for a long time. So I'd imagine he's pretty good at it if he's been around this long, and he's had a lot of jobs and seems to be sought after for pretty good offenses and all of that. Are you planning to go see the Grand National Tour? I'm assuming you mean Kendrick Lamar. No, I'm not planning on it really. The only concerts I'm going to right now are usually Christian in nature. I do love me some Kendrick Lamar, but no, not intending it at this point. Jimmy Whitner won. Do you know when the spring game will be? Nope, not yet. They have not to that point yet. Number 2, gun to your head, playoffs or no playoffs this coming season. I'd say playoffs. Schedule's amenable. I think the offense will take off. I think the defense will still be really good. So I think that right, like Ohio State got in with 2 losses, one to an unranked team with 6 wins at that time, still gets in. I think that Michigan can clear that bar, and I think they will. Number 3, you have an unlimited budget where you're eating in Ann Arbor area. Where are you eating in the Ann Arbor area? I mean, it's no surprise. Frito Petitos, BTB Burrito, although it's not quite the same as it was when it was at the original location. Zingerman's Roadhouse. I'm trying to think if there's any other places. I mean, when I lived in Ann Arbor for 4 years there, or 3 years, the most recently. I lived there in college, but a lot of places I liked in college aren't there. I sat there and mostly ordered takeout. Ordered DoorDash quite a bit. So Shake Shack would be on that, even though that's a national chain. I love me some burgers, but I'd have to give a shout out to like Aventura. I've only been there once. But a lot of the places I really loved, they're not there yet. BTB was my thing when I was in college. Number 4, you can only attend one home and away game next season. Which games are you going to pick? Oklahoma away. That's a destination that I've wanted to go to for quite some time. There was a point in time, right before I got to cover Michigan football, I was considering moving back to California and re-enlisting in the entertainment industry. And I was sitting there and I was like, if I drive back, I want to, instead of taking the northern route like I did, I want to take the southern route and I want to stay in Norman, Oklahoma. Don't ask me why. For some reason, I've just kind of made that like I really want to be there type of thing. So there's that. Home game, it would obviously be Ohio State. There's no question. I mean, especially because you don't have a lot of like really like intriguing home games this year compared to like last year, right? Like last year would have been like Texas and Ohio State or Texas and Washington, probably Texas and Washington. But nonetheless, yeah. Jonathan Joseph at J Joseph 2156. Is Biff Poggi going to be on this staff? I do believe so. I do believe that was. I was told a while ago that from like a like. Again, I want to tell you like how close I am to sources. This is the transparency for all the people that say what sources I do and don't have. Like with the Connor stuff, I was like as close as you can get, right? But this is like 4 people away, right? Like, so let me see. Someone who knows Biff told someone I know, and who told me that sounded like it was a done deal back in like late November. but there's been no announcement or anything like that, but I do believe it will probably happen. Finishing us out early. We're going real early here with the leaders and best, which is probably a good thing to move on to the rest. Spencer Whitmore at Spencer Whitmore. Any good sideline players running into stories? My cousin is a photographer for MLive and has gotten clobbered many times. I'd love to know who your cousin is. Is it Neil? I wonder if it's Neil. But not really, because I'm always been like smart about getting out of the way. I mean, there's been times where, like, I remember 2015, I have a picture of Jake Butt standing over Jabril Peppers after Jabril scored a touchdown against Rutgers. And like, you can look on the video, and I did not, then I was like, I might get run over. I don't care. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not looking at it. There have been some times where I've gotten in some harm's way. There's been times where like Mo Hurst almost ran into me. There was a time in the 2019 Ohio State game where I almost got pummeled. And an event staffer actually held me in, and I was really mad because what was it? Earlier that year, I saw a photographer get carted off at Penn State after colliding with Karan Higdon. I guess one of them that year, would have been the year before, but still, or 2 years before, I guess 2017 it must have been. Just trying to do the math in my head, but no, I don't have anything that's really great as far as that. But yeah, it's not. It wouldn't be a pleasant thing. I've seen people getting carted off and stuff like that. So, all right, we're going to get to more, starting with the leaders and best, starting with the victors valiant. We just did the leaders and best. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, attending NFL playoff games is an experience like no other. The energy, the excitement, and the connection with other fans is unmatched. I remember the thrill of seeing my favorite team clinch a playoff win live. It's a memory I'll never forget. This year, Gametime makes it even easier to create those unforgettable moments with their new feature, Gametime Picks. It filters out all the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you can focus on what matters, being there. I use Gametime Picks to grab tickets for an upcoming playoff game, and it could not have been easier. I found a super deal. They gave me incredible value for amazing seats, and I could even preview the view from my spot before buying. All-in pricing is a game changer. No surprise fees at checkout. Plus, knowing my tickets are backed by the Gametime guarantee gave me complete peace of mind. So that said, take this guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. That might be the earliest and the quickest we've ever finished segment one. Might also just be it's still a bit under the weather. Voice is sounding better. Just a little, just not lackadaisical, but just, running through this with a little bit less exposition compared to maybe the usual week. All right, let's get to the Victor's Valiant, starting with Jim in the North. Kind of off topic. I was a huge fan of Mike Hart as a coach. Any word on how he's doing? No, as far as I know, no one really seems to know. I do know one person who's talked to him. I mean, sounds like he's doing okay. I don't know what he's doing. I don't really know how he's doing, but it sounds like he's doing all right from what I had heard. Michigan's armchair quarterback at armchair QB _UM. Number one, how does it feel to be back in Buckeye Twitter's most wanted list? Bro, it's so frustrating and annoying. Like, listen, I don't like their team, but I don't hate their team the way they think I do. I don't hate them, but the vitriol gets absurd, right? Like, you want to disagree with me? Fine. Just be respectful. Like, that's why we get on the show and we talk a little smack, but it's always respectful. It's always supposed to be in jest. It should be like a little like elbow to the ribs. Like, I got you this time. You'll get us next time. And this is sports in general, right? It's not just simply Ohio State, Michigan, and all of that. Like, just people take it way too seriously, make it life and death, make it political essentially. And politics also in turn has become like sports rivalries, right? Like it's gotten out of hand in so many ways. Number two, how disappointed are they going to be in the Hammer? They'll be extremely disappointed. This is why we did the show earlier. I know you asked that before I did the first show of the day. Right, like they're just not it's not going to be what they think. This vacated wins and taking the championship away and postseason bans and all of these things, they're not happening. They're just not happening, okay? Like, it's that simple. When Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, comes out and says Michigan won their title fair and square, that gives you a precursor to exactly how serious this is. Could there be like a fine? maybe like a small scholarship reduction, probation. I wouldn't even be surprised if there's a minor suspension or something like that. I think Michigan will fight that tooth and nail, but I guess it just depends on how much they go at it, right? Like, yeah, but like there's going to be show causes. It's not, but that's going to be it, right? Like, it's not going to be like this vacated win, like Pony Express scenario that they seem to think. Okay. I'm not the one at William Cawthorne 9 with multiple. Michigan and Delaware wear the winged helmet. Are they exact same? Are there any other programs with the wing helmet? I believe Princeton does, but they're pretty close to the same, obviously. Different colors, including Delaware's, right? Their blue is different, their yellow is different, all of that. So, yeah, they're similar, different though. Where does Sherrone Moore rank within the Big Ten coaches? Hard to say, too early to tell to some degree, but I guess I'll give you something. I would say like upper third. It's hard to give him higher than that. I mean, because yeah, they did beat Ohio State and Alabama, but did lose some games like, Illinois and Washington and Indiana, games that you look at and say they probably shouldn't have lost. So, but by virtue of we're going to look at like the good wins, and we'll go ahead and say like if there's 18 coaches, he's probably hovering around the 6 or 7 mark at this point. Can certainly rise up those ranks a lot quicker this year, given the schedule and the personnel. Where does Mikey, as in I'm assuming Mikey Sainer still rank in your all-time Wolverines? I mean, top 10, easily, maybe top 5, because it's like the player, the leadership, the person, the personality, right? I've been close to Mikey since he was a recruit, when he was a silent commit to Michigan, and he was still technically committed to Virginia Tech. So yeah, I think you got to love Mikey, everything he brought to the table. Like, he wasn't the one that necessarily changed the culture. I think that had more to do with Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Ross. But Mikey kept it going, and that's super important, right? Mark Z at Mark Zimke. What are your thoughts on the new team motto, team over me? And he put team divided by me because it looks like that, right? It's team over me, obviously. The team above me, or however you want to look at it. I think it's cool, right? Because it's the idea, especially in this NIL-driven culture, and certainly there's going to be a lot of, it's just going to be different, right? Because you've got players that are making more than the coaches that they're being coached by. You're like NFL style. So you got to keep on, you got to continue to have a culture. You got to continue to have everyone pulling in one direction. It cannot be this idea of, well, I'm making X amount of money and I want to be a star and all of this stuff. And it still has to be everyone's pulling in the same direction. And so I like it. Yeah, it looks a little confusing. They should probably, maybe they should clarify that. But I mean, at the same time, you know what you're looking at. You know what I'm saying? Jacob Shavoria at Shavoria. If you were the GM of Michigan, what would your top 4 salary positions be? And what are the dollar amounts for each? I could not tell you the dollar amounts whatsoever. I'm not that clued into that type of thing. I mean, it'd just be the obvious, right? Like, if you're talking about positions like coaching positions. Oh, no, you're thinking players. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just processing that right now. I mean, quarterback, obviously. I would say defensive line, linebacker, and I'm torn between wide receiver and cornerback. I think you have to have an elite linebacker or two. I think you have to have elite linebacking play. I think you need elite. And here's the thing. I want to say offensive line, but like, I think you can get away as long as you can develop, not like paying guys like high amounts, right? And I think it works for like Michigan, right? Like if I'm Michigan's GM, like you've got an offensive line coach as your head coach, so that kind of helps you out a little bit. But I think that linebacker is super important, quarterback super important. If you can get a defensive tackle or an edge rusher that's a game changer, then I think that's super crucial. Right, like Michigan didn't necessarily have Josiah was really good last year. I mean, Derek Moore was too, as was TJ Guy, but I wouldn't put them in like an Aiden Hutchinson type category, right? Granted, he's like kind of one of one, but like that's like they didn't need that because they had Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, right? Like having like an elite player somewhere up front on the defense is a game changer. So I would definitely say that's number 2 after quarterback, then linebacker. You can't win a championship without at least above average linebacking play. You can't just have an average group there. So there's that. And then pick one of the 2 skill positions on one side of the ball or the other. And that's where I would go after that. Continuing, what is the best beach town in Michigan that you would recommend for a short vacation? I haven't been to a lot. I'll tell you that. I've always loved Grand Haven. Sarah's always liked South Haven. I've never been to South Haven. there was a place north of Holland that was cool, but like that I went when my friend Corinne got married. Can't remember the name of it, but I mean, that wasn't like a town. Like we were in a house, but like you can't go wrong with Grand Haven. I think it's absolutely incredible. So that's what I'm going to go with. All right. Edwin Simmons at Simmons _ Edwin. Good afternoon, my brother in Christ. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you and God bless you. How confident are you about Ty Haywood being a part of the 2025 class? I would have crystal balled him back in November. That's where I'm at. So I don't have a crystal ball anymore. I haven't had one since 2018, but that's what I would have done. Will Rod Moore be ready for spring ball? I can't imagine he wouldn't be, right? It's a full year. Yeah, like I know he had a little bit of a setback, but yeah, I'd imagine he'll be fully ready to go there. Keep showing love to those Ohio State fans. They just won the Natty and can't get over 4 losses in a row to Big Blue. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like they just won and it's kind of the like, this is, everything's good then, right? I mean, honestly, congratulations to them. If you think the championship is bigger than your rivalry, I mean, but your fan base didn't think so on the eve or day of the game in November 30th. You know, all the polls showed that Ohio State fans wanted to win the game more than they wanted a championship that year. So, I mean, yeah, you got the ultimate prize, but you didn't get what you really wanted, right? You got something really good for Christmas, but you didn't get the actual gift you actually wanted. And now you got to wait till Christmas next year to see if you can get it. Generic at ERKJ72. Hope you're feeling better. Thank you. I'm feeling better than I was earlier in the week. This time last week. Still got some rib pain. Still a little short of breath, which is, I think, why the talking isn't going great. But what was your best and worst interaction with opposing coaches over your time covering the Wolverines? With opposing coaches, I don't know that I've had many interactions with opposing coaches that I didn't know already. The closest I'll get to that I can think of is Vince Marrow once slid into my DMs like chewed me out, and then like 10 minutes later was like, by the way, God bless you, you do great work. I was like, okay. All right. That's probably the only one I can think of. Like, I haven't had many interactions with opposing coaches that I don't know to my recollection. So, but like, it's all, that's best. Okay. I have had some good interactions with opposing coaches. I've had multiple conversations with James Franklin, and it's always gone really well. That's why I like to make fun of him, right? Like anyone that watches college football does. But like my personal interactions with James Franklin have just been phenomenal. Like he introduced Steve Lorenz and I in 2015, where it's SMSB, standing on the field. James Franklin just walked up. We were watching Michael Owenu, I think. And he just comes up and he's like, hey guys, how you doing? Like, I'm Coach Franklin. Shook our hands. What are your names? Who do you cover or whatever? And he was like, cool. And I've met him probably 4 more times after that. And he's just always been good. I had a really good conversation with Manny Diaz at SMSB 2 years ago. Kind of about it. Weirdly, and he's my boy now. I weirdly had just a weird interaction with Ed Warner when he was Ohio State's offensive line coach. And I'll add this because every time I've tried to talk to Mark D'Antonio, because right, like I'm a cordial person. Like I don't hate him just because he's bristly and ridiculous about Michigan and everything. Twice I've said hi to him, and both times he either ignored or like looked at me and scowled. Doesn't know I cover Michigan, right? He's just, tells you who Mark D'Antonio is, I guess. All right. Clark at Blue for Life 8. Do you think if Bryce were to start right from the start, it would be a bad look for any other transfer QBs thinking of coming to Michigan in a similar situation as Keene did? No, because Bryce is just otherworldly and everyone knows that. Keene knows that, right? So keep it simple there. Try to get through these because now time is actually of the essence. The Rican Raider at Hamstand 87. Are you in favor of a Big Ten SEC football challenge? All I hear is static from both sides saying who's better and we need to settle in on the field. Also hope you're doing better. Appreciate all your hard work. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it'd be great. Yeah. I think like that, kind of like how Michigan used to have to play Notre Dame week 2. I think it'd be awesome if like week 2, just every year that was a non-conference game. I think that would be amazing. I'm all for it, but I'm all for the biggest matchups possible. I know people are looking at it differently now and saying play the lighter schedule and get through it and all that stuff. Like, no, I'm team play like the marquee names. I want the big matchups, right? It sucks if they lose like they did to Texas, right? But I'd rather play Texas than play UNLV. No offense to UNLV. That's what I would rather have. Perry Mitchell at Perry Mitchell 08. John Jansen said this week he doesn't like Stallions being seen as a hero. I see the phenomenon as the team won the Natty despite the hyper focus of the NCAA, Big Ten, rival fans, etc. on the, I can't do it. They can't do the voice right now, but cheating, making it clear that this was a really good team exploiting a rule that was nearly off the books anyway. I believe Stallions wouldn't be remembered this way if Michigan were bounced by Bama in the Rose Bowl. How do you view the way that he's being seen by the fandom, alumni, and the media? Yeah, I think he's a folk hero, and I love John. He's entitled to his opinion. I think, obviously, I'm biased because I know Connor personally. I mean, the one was last time I talked to Connor was yesterday, right? So I'm biased, but yeah, I love that he's a folk hero. And how do I think he's being seen by the fan base? Mostly as a folk hero. There are some people that are like, screw him. Like he was selfish and whatever. Like, listen, what he was doing, he didn't think was a like actual violation of any rules, right? Like, and he thought he was helping the team. How can you be mad at that, right? Great Bambino X at Colossus O'Cloud X. When do the rosters have to be at 105? I believe like August-ish, I think. And what's the current number on our roster? And I don't know the answer to that, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Brett Byer at Brett Byer 6 finishing us out. If and when do you think Ty Haywood will commit? Monday. That's happening Monday, I believe. What's going on with the Notre Dame lineman? I know Spindler's going all around. He's been to Pitt. He's been to Virginia. He's been to Nebraska. He's been to Indiana. I believe he's been to Michigan. Kind of feels like that one's not going to go Michigan's way. Kind of feels like that's an NIL play. Coogan's on Indiana campus right now. And I believe he visits Michigan over the weekend. So we'll see. He's got to get out of Bloomington. All right, we're going to continue on. We got more questions to answer. We'll do that here in just a moment. If you watch on YouTube, you probably you probably notice I wear a hat all the time. Part of it is me proselytizing. Jesus is king. Some of you might think that's because I'm going bald. I am not. I'm the opposite, but I have unwieldy hair. And if you're watching right now, this episode, I'm not wearing a hat. I'm doing something new. I'm trying to slick back hair. I don't know if it works. Like blow dried it straight. Cause like I said, I have unwieldy hair. I was watching Avengers Endgame and I was like, ooh, kind of like Captain America's hair. Let's see if I can do that. I don't think I'm pulling that off though. I was working earlier, writing earlier, and had that on, and that was the impetus for the hair change, the style change of the day. All right, Andy Hayes at A Hayes 7. Is Mike Hart the Benedict Arnold? No, he is not. Cliff Washburn at Double Neves. Hey Isaiah, is it safe to say that Wink is locked in for next season? I don't think it's safe yet until, and I haven't been on social media like really basically Tuesday forward. I finally signed on at like 3 a.m. and then like saw all my mentions actually Wednesday morning, because then I saw all the other stuff that was happening. We're going to get to that in a second here. The next question, literally. But so I haven't really been on, so I don't know if the Saints have made any progress with their coaching search and stuff like that. But until the NFL coaching carousel is done, no, it's not safe. But I think it's close. I don't think it's safe yet, right? I'd say like 70% chance, maybe higher, maybe 80% that Wink's back. Zach, sorry, skipping it here. Richard Schumacher at RW Schumacher. Of all the rival fan base tweets you've received, is there one you found the most amusing? No, there's not, because I don't like it, right? Like, I don't shy away from conflict, but doesn't mean I like it, right? Especially when it's something as ridiculous as like them thinking I don't know what I'm talking about and all of these things. Like, the things that make them angry, the Ryan Day PI stuff, I'm not stating it as fact. I'm telling you that is what people with that. I would say this, that if those same people told that have told me this, told them this, they'd be like, there might actually be something to this, right? But that's what makes it ridiculous. But no, I don't like how vitriolic it gets and personal. Like I said, I have no problem with them. Just be nice, be respectful. But like I don't really peruse it, right? I just kind of see that it's happening, and I'm like, and what I think the most amusing thing, and it's sad to me, is Jay Book. From Bucknuts, his obsession with me is creepy. That's all I'll say about that. And like, listen, like I've told you before, like a lot of people want me to come at Dave Biddle. I love Dave Biddle. I love him. I'm not going to come against him. Steve Hellwagon. I love Steve Hellwagon. I'm not going to come against him. At 11 Warriors, Dan Hope. I'm not going to come against him. Like, I love those guys. Whatever reason, Jay Book has decided that he has to be like the demon on my shoulder or something like that. And I pray for him. I wish that he would get a life and stop being so just obsessed with me, basically. And I know he's watching this probably. So if you want to DM me and talk about whatever and hash this out, man, my line's open. But bro, just settle down. That's all I got to say. Settle down. Not a good look. Zach and Zach Woodruff 3. Any chance they could convince Chris Henry Jr. to reclassify to 25 before signing day? Obviously, we'll have to go to NIL heavy on wide receiver, either in the portal 26. Okay, I talked to someone very close, like not very close, but I talked to somebody within the building, the program. I was told very strongly that this Chris Henry smoke, there's nothing to it. Okay, so no, like it's speculation and it's just not real. That's all I got to say on that. Michigander at Michigander 1426. I have Evan. What's your expected lineup for O-line going into week 1? I have Evan Link left tackle, Lawrence Attar left guard, Crippen center, El Hadi right guard, Andrew Sprague right tackle. Possible that's it. I think like that's how it kind of looks right now. Hard to tell though, because they get Pat Coogan that can change things, but I'd say right now that's probably accurate. Okay, I already answered that. Nunya Biz at U of M fan _for life. Other than Haywood, do you expect anyone else to sign? No, I do not. And managed to just kind of roll through with such little time left to get to the last question. And it's not the last because obviously I skip a lot of yours because we went from getting 30 questions a week. We tried to answer all 30 to getting 50 plus, usually 50, 60, 70. Today it's only 56-ish. Chad Holbrook at Chad Holbrook 10 closes out the Blue Crew. Not team related, but how's Mike Hart doing health wise? Always loved the dude and was hoping he was a lifer at Michigan. As far as I know, health wise, he's doing good. As far as I know, and I know we talked about that earlier, but we didn't. This is a separate one. As far as I know, he's doing good. So take that for what it's worth. But I don't have a very close relationship with Mike, so unfortunately, couldn't tell you. All right, that's gonna do it for us today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.